Hi there. This is a very basic explanation video, so if you're familiar with the most common terms in Hearthstone, you don't have to watch this video. I just want to explain some of the key terms and deck terms in Hearthstone, because I recently saw a lot of questions about this. Mainly, I guess, because of the DreamHack tournament, which people watched and asked what do they mean with Handlock or Ramp Druid or something like this. So I want to explain some of the basic terms in the game so that each one can understand what other people are talking or writing about. So this video is mainly about decks. So what do we have to know about decks? Mainly, or in general, the decks are divided into two parts. The one is Aggro, which means your main purpose of the deck is to kill the opponent as fast as possible. In general, these decks don't mind too much about board control or something, and just go for the face or delay the opponent to get the board control or get it back. And the other kind of decks are control decks that want to get board control and have various winning conditions. For example, setting up for one major combo, or just overwhelming the opponent by holding the board control and getting a little bit of damage each turn, or just having big guys on the board at the end of the game and finishing the opponent off. And the other very frequently used term is the meta or the meta game, which is something like everything that just that doesn't come down to a particular game, but more of the majority of all your games. So what would be a meta decision? For example, you'll see I'm a little bit prepared. For example, adding a big game hunter to your deck is a meta decision. Whether if you see a lot of big attack minions, you might want to add a big game hunter. It isn't that great of a card if you don't see that kind of minions on the board very often, because a 4/2 for 3 mana isn't that bad, but it can easily be defeated by or removed by, for example, a Leper Gnome, which is, well, a one mana minion and does 2 damage to the to yourself as well. So adding a big game hunter is a meta decision, although you can add cards to your deck that can increase the usefulness of a big game hunter, something that setups attack or basically cards that can increase the attack of other minions and the opponents as well, can be used to combo with the big game hunter to remove some minions from the board. Also, adding a Black Knight or the Black Knight would be a meta decision, whether if you see many taunted up creatures or not. For the Black Knight, it's a very heavy decision, because 4/5 is basically Chillwind Yeti, but costs 2 mana more, so you somewhat have to see opponents with taunts that you want to destroy. Today, I think the Black Knight is a very good addition to a deck in terms of the metagame, because there are a much of druids out there currently that run at least 2 good taunt creatures, meaning Druid of the Claw, which I didn't prepare, so let's just look at it. yeah, here. This is the taunt version of Druid of the Claw. 4/6 with taunt is really nice to get removed by the Black Knight. Also, they might run other big taunt creatures. So adding a Black Knight to your deck is, in my opinion, can be a good decision for now, for the current metagame. So let's, this said, let's check out some of the common decks that are floating around at the moment, and just explain the terms from them. I will start with the most common class or present class at the moment, which is the Druid. The Druid plays mostly two kind of decks, either the Ramp Druid or the Token Druid. Ramp Druid means that that is what a Ramp Druid deck might look like. Ramping, the ramp term stands for the ramping up of the deck, because you have cards like Wild Growth or Nourish that gives you mana crystals very early. So if you play, let's say, a Wild Growth at turn 2, at maybe another one at turn 3, if you got them, you could play Cairn already at turn 4, which is something like a double Yeti or some in that manner. So the main purpose of the Ramp Druid deck is to ramp up early and then get a lot of big creatures on the board, like the Ancient of Lore, the Ancient of War, the Scenarios, Sunwalkers, Cairns, and you get them out early by ramping up or by using Innervate. So you could also use Innervate at turn 3, playing Nourish for 2 mana crystals, so you would have 6 mana at turn 4 already, and would have 2 mana crystals this turn because they are not empty, which you could use for maybe a Wrath or Hero ability or something. So that's the main purpose of the deck. You have a lot of high cost minions that you want to play very early, so you win the end game with this deck. Another common deck is Token Druid. That is one version I found that you could play. As you can see, it includes the Black Knight and the Big Game Hunter, which are, as said, matter decisions. You could remove them or replace them with other cards as well. So the main purpose, or why is it called Token Druid? Mainly because of the Violet Teacher. Whenever you cast a spell, you summon a 1/1 Violet Apprentice. So how could this work? You imagine you go second, and you're at turn 3. You play the Violet Teacher. You play Coin and Violet Teacher at turn 3. Then play Innervate. Then play Power of the Wild. The Power of the Wild is a spell, so this trigger and the Innervate, of course, too. So the both trigger the Violet Teacher. So you would have a Violet Teacher and 2 apprentices, which get buffed by Power of the Wild for +1/+1. So you would have a 4/6 Violet Teacher and 2 two-toed tokens, which you could buff with Savage Roar in the next turn and do a lot of damage. That's the main purpose of the deck, to get a lot of tokens and buff them with Savage Roar to either get favorable trades on the board or efficient trades on the board, or just to kill off the opponent. It also uses the combo, which is often seen at 9 mana or 7 if you have the Innervate. It's Force of Nature Savage Roar. This means you summon 3 guys with 2 attack, and also 3 guys +1. So These are 12 damage already, plus the 2 that your hero gains from the Savage Roar. So if you have something on the board like a token from the Violet Teacher or an Argent Squire, the damage is increased by 3 already because of one token or an Argent Squire or something. So Savage Roar gains more value. I think the Ramp Druid might... No, in this iteration it doesn't use the combo and it doesn't use Savage Roar. But as you may imagine, there are a lot of variations of the deck. So the next class we want to look at is the Warlock. There are also 2 types of decks that are very common out there. One is the Zoo deck, as you can see from the token Druid. Here are 3 legendaries and 3 epics and a lot of rares. If you look at the Zoo, it's very well white and blue, so it's kind of cheap. Crafting cost of this particular Zoo deck would be 1,500 dust. So in comparison to this one, it's very cheap. Well, why it's called Zoo? The term comes from Magic the Gathering, where there was a Zoo deck that was based mainly around minions, and I guess these minions were beasts or something. So the creator of the deck called it Zoo, and this deck was created by Reynard, and he called it Zoo too. Based on the Magic the Gathering turn, which is a popular trading card game. So the main purpose of this deck is to have a lot of cheap minions that you can play and aggressively go for board control. Zoo is often misinterpreted as an aggro deck, but it isn't that aggressive in terms of hitting face and killing the opponent fast, but more in terms of board control. So you have a lot of strong minions and efficient minions to do very efficient trades on the board and gaining more and more board control turn by turn, and having minions out that don't die or do something before they die, so board clears don't affect you so much. So in this particular Zoo deck, in the classic variation of the deck, you have 2 Shield Bearer and 2 Void Walker with taunts. Also Defender of Argus, which gives taunt to other minions to protect your minor minions, and the Young Priestess to give health, so other minions might not be killed that easily, and an Argent Squire and Skull Crusaders with Divine Shields, and a Harvest Golem which comes back, and so on and so on. So your minions are very resilient, and basically you just flood the board, get rid of your hand, and then play 1 or 2 Doom Guards, or kill mostly minions very early with the Soulfire which doesn't cost mana, to get the board control. Another Warlock deck is the Handlock deck, which goes in the other direction because you don't go for board control that early. You don't go for board control that early, so you basically, it's based on turn 4 minions. So you want to have the Twilight Drake or Mountain Giant with a lot of cards in your hand at turn 4. So what you will see from a Handlock when he plays is turn 2 tap, turn 3 tap, then has a lot of cards in his hand at turn 4, and then he might play either a Mountain Giant or a Twilight Drake with much health, health, and then taunt them up with a Sunfury Protector or a Defender of Argus, and afterwards he might not have that much health left, so he can play cheap Molten Giants and taunt them up, or copy some of his minions, or just play, for example, is this included here, a Watcher? Yeah, here, 2 Ancient Watchers, and kill them to get board control, or drop a Ragnaros, or clear the board with Hellfire, or heal himself up again if he dropped too low with Earthen Ring Farseers. So it is a very slow and calm kind of deck that tries to get the giants on the board. So if you play against them, the big game hunter is all of the time a big value card that you should keep. So, and if they drop too low, they might play Lord Jaraxxus, which isn't that present in the meta for now, I think. But most of the time, this is very interesting because it's well, it depends on the draws of the Warlock, what kind of game he plays. He might end up with playing Leroy Jenkins. Is Power Overwhelming? Yeah, he might add a Power Overwhelming, which is 1 mana spell and kills the minion that it's played on, but gives him it for additional attack. So he could, well, some of the games end with Leroy and Faceless the Leroy to do 12 or even 16 or 18 or whatever damage. So this is a very calm kind of deck in this case. Another very common deck in the current meta is the Miracle Rogue. The term Miracle comes, well, the term from the Handlock obviously comes from him holding a very big hand. So playing very few cards and having a lot of options and having a lot of cards, or at least 2 cards that benefit from a big hand. So as you can see, the Twilight Drake gets high health and the Mountain Giant becomes cheaper to play. So, and turn 4 8/8 is, well, heavy at least. So the Miracle Rogue, what I wanted to tell was that the term Miracle comes also from Magic the Gathering, because there was the original version of the deck, I think, was included Quest Adventurer. I don't know what the card's title is at the moment, but it's the card that gets +1/+1 for each card you play. So the main purpose was to let the Questing Adventurer, of course, letting it grow. So there was a version of this in Magic the Gathering that contained a lot of cheap spells to let this card grow. So it was called Miracle Grow, and the term Miracle, well, the Questing Adventurer finally didn't find its way into the deck because other combos were better, but the term Miracle standard there. So today it's basically, if you hear someone to speak about a Miracle deck, it's basically based around the Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Whenever you cast a spell, you draw a card, so you want to have a lot of cheap spells in your deck, so you can draw a lot of cards. That's the main purpose of this deck, and then drawing through your deck and gaining the cards you needed, or you need for killing the opponent. So in this deck you have a lot of cheap spells and a lot of card draw. For example, a Loot Hoarder or an Azure Drake, draw a card, Fan of Knives, draw a card. Shift, draw a card. And a lot of cheap spells, as you can see. Backstep for 0, Preparation for 0, which makes one of the next spells cost less. Shadow Step for 0, which is then finally used for Leroy Jenkins for a combo. So you can play Leroy, Shadow Step, Leroy 12 damage, Shadow Step, Leroy 18 damage. Then maybe play a Cold Blood. Is this included in this? This deck doesn't. Does it run Cold Blood? Well, usually the deck runs Cold Blood, which gives 4 HP if it's comboed out for attack to a minion. So you can, with the combo, you can increase the attack value by 4 or even 8, and you can play the Auctioneer and Conceal It for 1 mana, which lets you draw a card and can save some the Auctioneer. So there are a lot of cards of cheap spells that let you draw through your deck and kill your opponent. For example, Bright Flurry or an Invisorate or Deadly Poison. All of them can do damage to either the board or the opponent. So that's basically a miracle deck, although this particular version misses Cold Bloods. This one. Combo for attack instead. So you play a card, then play this, and gets 4. So 2 of them are 8 more damage, and as we saw, you can play Leroy like 3 times, which is 18 damage, so you can do 26 damage. And because of the Shadow Step reducing the cost of the minion you return, you get triple Leroy for 8 mana and can add 2 Cold Blood. So if you have 10 mana, you can do 26 damage in 1 turn. Which isn't that unlikely, because you can draw through your deck due to all the spells, and you won't need the 26 mana because you have an Auctioneer out that you also can buff or hit with Deadly Poisoned Weapon. Some of these Miracle Rogues also play with Assassin's Blade. That can also do a lot of damage during the turns, especially if you have Deadly Poison with it. So, okay, then let's go to another class, the Warrior. The typical control Warrior, as this deck version here is called here, is also common in the current meta, and it's basically annoying the opponent as long as you can, and then play a lot of high cost legendaries. So you have some cheap cards for removal, and you have a lot. You have some of nice combos. You can play an Armor Smith and an Acolyte of Pain, for example, and they play a Whirlwind and get 2 armor from the Smith and a card from the Acolyte, and you hit the opponent's minions as well. You can play a Cruel Taskmaster to buff up the Armor Smith and get 1 armor and a 3/3 minion, or you can use it to finish off 1 HP minions. And you have a Shield Block to survive and draw more cards. You have a Slam to get board control or kill minions and draw more cards, and so on and so on. And finally you get to draw your late game legendaries and play them, well, most of the time right after another, and overwhelm your opponent at the late game. So 2 not that common kind of decks in the current meta are Freeze Mages that basically try to draw into some kind of combo and delay the opponent by freezing the minions and killing the minions and getting more time and getting more time, and reduce the opponent's HP, and then kill them off with pyroblasts or fireballs or something like that, and maybe get more damage to it via to Thalnos. And if you encounter many minions, you maybe want to play something like Frost Nova and then the Doomsayer, so the Doomsayer clears the board and delays the opponent as well. And you have a lot of card draw like Novice Engineer or Acolyte of Pain or an Intellect to draw into the cards you need. Another variation of this is the Freeze Giants Mage, which plays with giants that we have seen in the Handlock so far as well. So you want to have many cards in your hand, so you can play cheap mountain giants, and if you drop low you can play molten giants as well. You can heal yourself with the Alexstrasza or get the opponent to 15 health, and so on and so on. So this is a not that common kind of variation of the Freeze Mage deck, but it seems to be viable because I've seen it, I guess, 2 times in high rank. So this is for now, I guess. I think that's all the deck terms that I prepared. I may have missed the Mulligan, which refers to, I think, a golf term. That means something like do-over, and this refers to the starting of each game. So the Mulligan means the phase where you can discard cards and get new cards in the beginning of each game. And that's it, I guess. So this should give insight into the terms that are mostly used when talking about Hearthstone decks, so you might find it useful or not. You can let me know in the comments or give me feedback of some kind, and I hope it was interesting or entertaining for you. So thank you for watching, and bye bye.